Hey everyone, I'm Stephanie, and I believe that the right book at the right time can change lives, and that all readers should read children's literature, especially adults. So, that's what we do here on the KidLit Love podcast. We celebrate all things children's literature: picture books, early readers, middle grade, and young adult novels for readers of all ages. In each episode, we'll talk with children's literature authors and discuss their books, their hopes, their dreams for readers, their writing process, and much, much more. Whether you're an adult reading to their inner child or connecting the young readers in your life with fantastic books, you've come to the right place. So grab a notebook to build your TBR, and let's get to today's episode of KidLit Love. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the KidLit Love podcast. I'm Stephanie Affinito, your KidLit loving host, inviting you back to another bookish conversation with a children's literature author. Today, I'm talking with Lauren Castillo. Lauren is the author and illustrator of multiple books, including the Caldecott honor-winning book, Nana in the City. She's also illustrated several critically acclaimed picture books, including 20 Yawns, Yard Sale, and City Cat. She's here today to talk about her newest release, School for Woodland Creatures. It's a cozy book that takes place on the first day of school and is about overcoming your doubts and letting your light shine. I can't wait to talk about it with her, so we are going to get right to the episode. Lauren, welcome to KidLit Love. I'm so glad you're here today.
Hi, Stephanie. It's so nice to be back. We chatted a couple of years ago, and I rarely get to follow up with somebody that I've talked to on a podcast. So this is nice.
Well, Lauren, I made sure of it because when the emails come through that say here's a book coming, my hand went right in the air really quickly. Like I want to talk to her again. I want her
Oh,
back.
yay. That's great.
So, for listeners who are newer to the podcast, I want to give them the episode number. We met way back on episode 32, and we talked about Just Like Millie, which
Yeah.
was a wonderful book and a wonderful conversation. But I'm excited to talk about Our Friend Hedgehog today.
Me too. Me
Yeah.
too.
Before we do, I still like to talk about the author and kind of getting the backstory on them. So for listeners who are perhaps newer to the podcast and didn't know that episode, I'd love for you to just give us a little bit about your journey that you've taken through children's literature.
Sure. Okay. So I had a similar path probably to many illustrators in that a lot of us went to art school, studied illustration. Not all of us, but some of us, many of us, studied illustration and probably had a teacher along the way that was in the world of children's literature that kind of opened our eyes to that as a possible career. So that happened with me. I went to Maryland Institute College of Art in Baltimore, and I was there for 4 years, and then I knew that where I was located in Baltimore, it wasn't exactly the center of the publishing industry, and at the time, it was so important that you be close enough to those publishing
Right.
houses that you could walk in the door and do a drop off your portfolio, have your artwork looked at and stuff like that. And so I knew I wanted to move to New York. I also felt like I needed more of an education. Like I just didn't feel right. Like I was ready to jump into to making books yet. I wanted to kind of hone in on what it was that I was interested in. And I found a graduate program that let you do just that. It wasn't specifically for children's literature, but it's called it's at School of Visual Arts. It's called Illustration as Visual Essay. And so basically you're kind of focusing in on the type of illustration you want to do and like making these longer projects throughout the 2 years you're there. And so those 2 years gave me the opportunity to really focus on what it entails to put together a pitch for a picture book, right?
Which
So
is a
that's what,
lot, I've learned.
yeah,
It's a big deal.
it took a very, yeah. And at the time I wasn't super confident in my writing abilities, but we had a lot of, well, not a lot, but a handful of creative writing classes. And so I feel like that also helped me to see what type of stories and how I wanted to tell my stories. And so, kind of the mixture of getting the education focus on the writing piece and
Mhm.
uh, narrowing in on the children's book piece together for those 2 years kind of put me in a place where I felt like I was confident to start sharing my work with publishers. So I graduated in 2005. I also landed a internship with a publishing house. So for that, and then for the next year following, I ended up working for the publishing house, Henry Holt, which is part of Macmillan. And so I got to learn what it's like to be on the other side of publishing, on the inside. And that was really interesting because I made friends with the young editors there, and I got to see what types of books they were acquiring, got to see what type of artwork that particular publishing house was interested in, got to help select artists for projects. It was really, really cool. And I hoped to continue that as a part-time gig when I got my first picture book deal, but it ended up not panning out for me to be able to do the part-time work in the publishing house and then making the books on the side. So I ended up diving right into. I guess I got my first picture book deal in 2000, and I guess it was that summer 2005, and it was because I had made great connections while I was in graduate school.
Yeah.
um, and so by the time the first book came out, it was 2007, and that was called What Happens on Wednesdays, written by Emily Jenkins. And for those of you YA readers out there, she also goes by E. Lockhart, and she writes the We Were Liars books,
Oh, yes, love
Liars,
them.
Family of Liars, I think it's the second.
Hmm.
So yeah, she has her picture book, persona, and then her YA persona. So yeah, it was a really cool first project to work on, and kind of got my foot in the door, and I continued working with that same editor, Frances Foster at Farrar, Straus and Giroux, for a number of years. As an illustrator. And then maybe 3 years into illustrating books, I got my first book deal as an author and an illustrator. So, and today I do both. I still do both because I really love illustrating books by other authors because they are stories that I wouldn't typically write myself.
Hmm.
So it gives me a different, fun and interesting project to work on outside of, something I might write.
Yeah. Well, I always admire, well, I admire authors, I admire illustrators, but I really admire authors and illustrators who do both of those things. But now you've got like this third category of you are in the inside too. So you really have a pretty thorough look at
Short-lived,
how the book.
short-lived, but yes, it was a very, very interesting look,
Yeah,
and it's probably way different today because that was 2005,
right.
2006, and here's 20, crazy enough, 20 years later. So many of us work remote, or of them work remotely now.
Right. Yeah.
So often I'll be working on a book and my editor lives on the West Coast and my art director lives, up in Maine or something. And, somebody else is close to the office in New York, but everybody's all scattered all over the place. So it's not quite the same feeling, I would imagine, working in a publishing house as it
Mhm.
used to be, where you could just walk down the hallway and drop into the editor's, office and sit down and have a
Yeah.
conversation about a
Yeah.
project. So, yeah.
Now we knock on Zoom room doors.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes. A blessing and a curse.
Yeah. So the last time we met, we did talk about Just Like Millie, but we also got a chance to mention our friend Hedgehog at the end. And this book that we're here to celebrate today, School for Woodland Creatures, is part of our friend Hedgehog series. So I'd love if you could open there and give us the overview of that series, and then we'll dive specifically into this newest book.
Sure. So, okay, I'll try to be concise here. This time, I'll give
We
you.
don't mind wordy. We don't mind wordy. Don't worry about that.
So yeah. So the series is called Our Friend Hedgehog. The first book is called The Story of Us, and that came out in 2020. I started thinking about this first book in 2014 when I moved away from New York City, where I had lived for about 10 years. And the first story is an origin story of how all the characters in the book became good friends. And it starts off with the main character, Hedgehog, and her best friend, Muddy. And Muddy, there's a really bad storm on the island where Hedgehog lives, and Muddy is swept away. And that's her only and best friend, right? And so she is forced to leave her island, her comfort zone, the only place she's known, and the only friend she's had. She's forced to leave that island and go searching for him because she needs to find her friend, right? And so she spends the majority of the book searching for her friend, but along the way, she ends up collecting new friends. So she runs into one character first, and that character wants to help her in this, in this journey of finding her friend. And then they go to another character, and then this character joins in. And so it's a cumulative um, story of her building new friendships, her coming out of her comfort zone, and being brave enough to go out and explore and kind of broaden her view of the world. And so Hedgehog is very much me. I am a lot of times, or actually all of the books that I've written are about um, based on a childhood memory or a current theme in my life. And so most of the picture books are childhood memories that I've written. And this Hedgehog series, Our Friend Hedgehog series, is right now it's three books, and they are all big topics that have occurred in my life. So the first book, The Story of Us, is the friendship story and kind of coming out of your comfort zone and finding your brave. The second book, A Place to Call Home, is about building community, and it's more about like found family. Uh, in this story, Hedgehog discovers that there are other creatures that look just like her. She thought she was the only one out there, and she discovers there are so many more of them. And they kind of, the community of hedgehogs tries to have her basically move in to their community, and that would mean she'd have to miss the whole winter of fun with all of these beautiful new friends that she's made. And so she has to kind of have a heart to heart with herself and figure out where it is that she really wants to be, where what she wants for herself. And so that is called A Place to Call Home. That's the second book. And then the newest book, School for Woodland Creatures, is a back to school story. It's a story about believing in yourself and your abilities and not being afraid to share those talents and those abilities with others. So this story, in the beginning, there's one human character in the series. I should mention it's very much to me was one of my favorite books growing up was the Winnie the Pooh books, or Winnie the Pooh, of course, and that I always loved the idea of that one human character, Christopher Robin, and then his crew of animal creature friends, right? And so that was sort of an idea that I had, was to do a little bit of a kind of touching on that similar feeling of Winnie the Pooh for Our Friend Hedgehog. And so in this book, it's Annika May, little girl. She lives in the Hedge Hollow, which is the land that all of these animals live in. And so she lives there. She's moved there, and all of these animals have different homes within the hollow. And Hedgehog's Island is like off of the river, which is part of the hollow. And so she's going off to school, and all of the other characters are really sad because she's leaving them and they can't join her. And so they all decide, after spending hours the morning she leaves for school trying to figure out what to do with themselves, they decide that they are going to start their own school. And everybody's in love with this idea, but Hedgehog is quietly stewing about the fact that she has and she's stressing and she's anxious because she has nothing to offer, because they all want, the idea is that each of them will teach their own class to the other pupils, right? And so her class is going to be last. And so throughout the book, we are going to each student's classroom, and of course there's sort of the shenanigans and the conflicts that happen between the strong characters the strong personalities in the book, in each of these classrooms. And by the time we get to the end of the book, Hedgehog has realized that she does in fact have a talent that she can share with the rest of her friends. And so I won't spoil it by saying what, but those of you who may have read the first or second book might have an idea of what that talent is. So yes, very long-winded
Oh, but it
way
was
of putting
perfect.
the series.
It was the perfect overview, the perfect like capture of the beautiful story of the book without, getting that reveal of what it was at the end. And it's speaking to my teacher heart for sure. And we have lots of teachers and librarians, certainly parents as well, who listen to the podcast. Um, but this idea of finding your thing, finding who you are, figuring out what it is, but also within the company of others, like that
Mhm.
can be a wonderful thing and a stressful thing. And in true fashion, this just balances both in a way that appeals to kids and adults quite frankly. But yeah, you've got
Sure.
beaver
Yeah.
who builds and hen counts and moles doing geography and what is hedgehog going to do? And it is great fun along the way figuring it out, and those themes of embracing the change that, oh gosh, she's going away to school, what are we going to do? And then just listening to yourself and allowing yourself to find your thing, I think is one of the greatest lessons we could teach kids, is that finding your thing is a process, and you're allowed to do it no
Yeah.
matter what it is, and you'll figure it out. Like, it's, to me, that's just like the best lesson that can warm somebody's heart and make them feel good from the inside.
Right. And having your friends and your family be cheerleaders for you,
Yes.
when you don't think you're good at something, if you love it, you should find a way to do it.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
And we won't reveal what it was at the end, but I just have to tell you that was the best ending. It was the best. It was the best way to capture it. I just loved it. I won't say it,
oh,
but
oh good. I'm glad you
listeners will know that it's wonderful.
I just have such a great time with these books. They are the first books that are non-picture books that I've worked on.
Yes, I talk about that. Yeah, these are early
Yeah.
readers, which is a bit different.
Right. So writing, this versus writing a picture book, so different, both writing and illustrating. But the writing side, as I said, like, I didn't specifically study writing. I took some creative writing classes. I was a lot less comfortable and confident on the writing side. But I found sort of my niche in like more poetic, spare writing. And that's what seemed to fit well into, writing picture books, because I am really drawn to picture books that are spare and poetic. And, the mostly what I write is that. And so I knew I wanted to tell a story that was longer, and I wanted to really develop these characters, and there are eight, I believe. I should know this offhand. There are about eight. And these characters each I had to develop their personalities very fully to figure out, who they were before I had them speaking dialogue in the story. And so these are really the first books where I had to use dialogue consistently, write in chapters. These are about 128 pages per book. Um, so the format, yeah, just very, very differently. And when I was talking to my editor about wanting to do something that was longer than a picture book, she's like, don't limit yourself to a specific amount of pages, or because I kept saying to her, well, should it be
Mm.
like, should I, like, I would find a book that I was thinking about, and say, well, should I try to make it, X amount of chapters? And
Right.
so fits into this category. And she's like, don't limit yourself, just write and we'll see what happens. And so it got longer and longer. You know, it was starting out as like, if you've seen some of these picture books that are like 3 chapters where they're longer picture books that are like 60
Yeah.
pages or something, and they're like broken down into like 3 different mini stories. I
Mhm.
had thought of doing something like that initially, and then as the dialogue came and as I was writing, it just they got a little the
True.
storyline got longer, and then I said, well, if I'm going to write something so long, I really would I want to make sure that I get to illustrate it in full, like full color, and also like not just spot art throughout, like you
Right.
see in a chapter book, but like art on every single spread. And she's
Yes.
like, we can make that work, you know? And at the time, there wasn't much of that in the market, but fortunately, the publisher agreed to do it. And I was really excited about that because I think I mentioned in the first podcast, and for those who didn't listen, that's fine, because I'll talk about it again. The One of the reasons I wanted to write in this format, or that I was getting excited about this format, is because I had some reading struggles as a young child, like a child that was moving from picture books into chapter books. And in the 80s, we didn't have a lot of those heavily illustrated in between books, those bridge books. And I was thinking about that as I started, you know, kind of designing the layouts for this book. I thought, wouldn't it be great to have this be sort of a transitional book into for readers who are emerging and can read on their own, but want the support of more images, or they just love art,
Yeah.
um, and they want it on every page, you know, almost like we see in graphic novels, right? But told in a more traditional chapter book way. And so that's what I put a lot of focus on was, you know, I share mostly I'm illustrating what the story is saying. And in picture books, there's an extra layer of story in the artwork. So I tried to add little bits that you pick little details that you pick up in the artwork like you would in a picture book. But it's a little more straightforward in the way that it's illustrated, and that it's the art is telling the same story as the words.
Hmm.
Because, you know, for this age,
Yeah.
you know, group and this type of book, it makes the most sense. So it was just fun to figure out a different way of a different type of book to make and how to still include so much color art, full color art. And to know when the first book came out, I heard from a lot of parents like, you know, I didn't know because book came out during COVID. I didn't know how much feedback I was going to get, but I started hearing through social media parents that said that it was the first book that their child read on their own, and you know, stories like that
Yeah.
that were so touching to me because those are exactly the type of kids that I was writing these books for. So
Yes.
so yeah, so I've expanded this to 3 books now. I had a baby in between, so that's why books 2 and 3, there's kind of a big gap. But the nice thing is that big gap allowed us to also get the books out in paperback. So all 3 books are now both out in hardcover and paperback, and audiobook, which is kind of cool. So yeah,
There
very
is something special about the feel of the book. I happen to have the hardcover book, and
exciting.
I know I remember what it was like to be a little kid and to move from the picture books, to move from the little books, the leveled readers, whatever we called them,
Yep.
to the chapter books, and it was a huge jump back in
Yeah,
the 80s for sure. It was like you went from the little kid from Frog and Toad to Are You There, God, It's Me, Margaret, or something or something like
exactly,
that.
exactly.
There is just something special about holding a book like this in your hands. It's hardcover. It's a big, it's a big kid book, but then it's just beautiful. And like you said, it is every single page is beautifully illustrated where you just feel that you're in that world. You're in Hedge Hollow. You
Yeah.
are in Hedge Hollow as you are reading the book. And I think one of my favorite things are those end pages where you get the feel of the land, the lay of the land, so to speak.
That's yeah.
And then the way that you've drawn the pictures or you've illustrated them is and you've talked a little bit about it, but there's just something that feels warm and comfortable and safe and inviting in the pages, not just as a reader, but just as a human, to see those colors and to see that the way that they are captured. It's like a breath of fresh air entering
Oh,
Hedge Hollow. It's just gorgeous. It's
oh,
truly gorgeous.
well, no better review than that. Thank you. They take forever because a
Yeah.
picture, usually 32 pages. You got about 30 pieces of artwork, and these are closer to 100 pieces of artwork. So it's a
A
feat.
lot.
But absolutely worth it to me to be
Yeah.
able to make these. So
Yeah.
just loving it and excited for more, hopefully down the line. But yeah, just thinking about little me and when I was, because I remember the pressure that was put on me to jump from picture books to bigger books,
Yeah.
chapter books, and I didn't feel like I wanted to read anymore. That it like I didn't feel like a reader for a couple years. It was definitely forced. Um, I didn't enjoy it like I had early on. And so there's more and more books like these out today, not just my series, clearly. And I'm excited for those second and third graders or, that are in that window of time where they have a lot more options of books to read if they want
Yeah.
something like this.
Can I tell you what my favorite illustration was?
Yes,
The
please.
Polaroid.
Oh, the Polaroid.
The Polaroid camera. It's like I adored my Polaroid camera. So I was like, oh yes, we're gonna have a generation of kids who remembers what this is.
Yeah. Well, they started becoming popular again a few years ago.
Yes. Everything comes back, right? It just
Yeah,
comes
there's always
back.
like exactly the circle. The first book, there's the human character Annika May. She's always carrying around her Polaroid camera, and so the little beginning spots of each chapter have a Polaroid snapshot of the characters. So that's been a fun element as well. It's a nice thing about illustrating and writing your own books is you get to add whatever details that you're
Yes.
interested into the
Yeah.
book. So yeah, and kind of be in charge of the whole design of it. So it's very cool.
Yes. Well, it's cool as a reader to be able to, walk that journey with you across those books in that way.
Well, thank you.
As you think about this book going out into the world, published very recently as we're recording the episode, and you've touched upon it a little bit, but what is your hope for the book or for the readers who get this particular book in their hands?
Uh, Um, so I've always been somebody who wished they could write humorous books, funny books. I just can't. I try so hard. I feel like the closest I've gotten though is with these books, and it's because of the character development and how like
Hmm.
kind of ridiculous and goofy some of the characters are. So it pushes me into that area a little bit, that area of humor. And I think this is not answering your question exactly, but I'm thinking about like what type of book this is. This is more of like, a heartwarming, these are
Hmm.
this book and all three in the series are like heartwarming books, but they also have pieces of humor, um, pieces that really make you pause and think and reflect on yourself. And I would hope for readers of this book to, whatever type of reader they are, to get a little something out of it that inspires them in some way. I always want my books to inspire um, others to be creative in some way, like whatever it may be, like whether you because for me when I was young, like books helped me or inspired me to write my own stories. That was something I really liked to do. And I know that all of us have creative energy, that we like to use. And I think um, the more you read, the more you think about your own types of stories you could tell or ways you can be creative and build something or whether it's building, drawing, writing, like there's so many ways to be creative, right? So I don't know. I think for readers, like, yeah, I just would hope that they would find a little something that inspires them, gives them that, a little spark
Yeah.
to make something of their own and pass it on.
Well, that will happen for sure. I can pretty much guarantee that hope will come true. And I would add for young readers or the older readers that are young at heart as well. And it really is the perfect book to kick off a community of learning together or a group of learners coming together. So it's pretty timely that the first day of school will be barreling upon us. And I think this is one that every teacher, every librarian, every parent even um, just has a very timely reminder that this could be the next book that can make them feel really good about themselves.
Yeah. And I know, just to add on to the like first day of school feeling, um, for me it was always, like I had so much anxiety first day of school. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of it was like, real relates to the themes in this book, and, you know, feeling maybe insecure about yourself, your abilities compared to your friends' abilities. And this book shows all of the characters, insecurities and securities, and what they're confident in.
Yeah.
And it just shows, like, you could walk into any classroom or even office building, and like one of these characters is in that space, right?
Yes.
Like
Yes.
there's so many different personalities that come together in a space, in a classroom. And yeah, how to work together, how to learn together. And yeah, so like I said before, anytime I'm making a book, like I think back to my childhood time when I was experiencing that, for the first time. And I try to put as much of that, genuine emotion into it. And I think that it would, for kids that are going to school that, like me, might be anxious or nervous, like I think it will ease your anxieties if you read this before starting school, because you will see that you are not alone in
Yeah.
that. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And just listening to you speak and knowing that these books come from a little piece of you, it makes sense why the reader gets to feel it so much because you're literally pouring into the book, which is why it makes the reader feel in a particular way. That's like the magic that happens. That's the part of reading that I love when the
Right.
author funnels herself in and then the reader gets to transform it whatever way works for them and then do something with it on the other side. Like
Yeah, it's
that's
so
the
neat.
magic you're making right now, Lauren.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I feel it as a reader too. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's really nice.
Oh, well, this was wonderful. Tell listeners where we can find you online so they can keep up with you and maybe anything that might be coming next for you as well.
Sure. Well, I am trying to be more consistent about my newsletter. So my website is laurencastillo.com. And on the first page at the bottom, there's a button to join my newsletter. And so I try to keep readers up to date with any new projects I have coming out, any exciting events, things like that. I also keep up an Instagram page that's at Studio Castillo, and I'm also on Facebook as Lauren Castillo. I have an author page on there. So I try to kind of share the same information on all three. So whoever is best for you to connect works for me.
We can
Yeah.
find you. Okay, so I will put links to all of those into the show notes, and of
Awesome.
course links to the book and the books that we talked about today to make it as easy as possible for people to find them and then to find you. Thank you so
Wonderful.
much for coming back. This was another wonderful conversation. I really appreciate it, and I'm so excited to help you launch this one out into the
Oh,
world.
thanks for having me, Stephanie. And it's an honor to be on the show. So appreciate
You.
it.
Thank you. And listeners, of course, thank you for listening to another episode of KidLit Love, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for listening to today's episode of the KidLit Love podcast. You'll find links to all of the books, resources, and ideas mentioned in the show notes and at alitlife.com. You'll also find KidLit Love on Substack. That's where you'll find posts for each episode, monthly KidLit roundups, and an invitation to join my summer book club and go deeper into the world of children's literature. And if you loved this podcast and want more, you might like to listen to my other podcast called Get Literate. It's a podcast that explores all things books and reading, notebooks and writing to build a life you love. One more thing. If you love what you listened to today, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast, or take a screenshot of the episode and text it to a friend. This helps the podcast grow and builds our bookish community of KidLit Love. Thanks for listening.